Okay, hi everyone. So for this video, right, we're going to go through this question and answer. Can my company be exempted from holding AGMs? Okay, so AGM stand for annual general meetings. Okay, so what is the AGM? Like I mentioned, it's an annual general meeting. So what is its significance and use? Essentially, right, an AGM is for the directors to show the shareholders what the company has been up to for the year. So essentially it is the directors who are preparing the financial statements, and then they are tabling it for the shareholders to take a look at. So the shareholders, right, being the owners of the company, they are actually invited to the AGM to scrutinize and ask questions about the operations of the company and the profit and loss statements that the company is presenting to them. Okay, so as investors, right, or owners of the company, right, the shareholders or the members do not actually run the company, but instead they appoint the directors who run and manage the company on a day-to-day basis. So the AGM is very important because it is a platform whereby the owners of the company can be updated as to their investment in the company by the people who are running the company, which are the directors. So essentially, right, the AGMs are mandatory. So as you can see, right, it's actually good corporate governance to hold the AGM, and it makes sense. Okay, like what I previously mentioned. However, there's an exemption to it. So private companies, right, they are exempted from holding the AGMs if they provide their financial statements to their members or shareholders within 5 months of the end of the financial year. The normal deadline for a private company to hold an AGM is 6 months from the end of the financial year. So if your financial year ends on 31st December, then your AGM deadline will be 30th of June the following year. But if let's say you want to be exempted, the company wants to be exempted from holding the AGM, then the company has to provide their financial statements to the members, right, or to the shareholders within 5 months, which means that if the financial year ends on 31st December, then you would have to the company would have to provide the financial statements to the shareholders by 31st of May. Okay. However, right, if the shareholders or the members, right, receive the financial statements, and then, right, the member or the shareholder says, "Hey, I want to hold AGM," okay, then what must the company do? The company must then hold the AGM. So any member, doesn't matter. So he can be a 1% shareholder, he can be a 0.5% shareholder. Doesn't matter how many shares that particular shareholder has. So long as one shareholder wants to request for an AGM, and he notifies the company no later than 14 days before the end of the 6th month following the financial year end. So which means that the financial year end is let's say 31st December, then your deadline, right, is 30th of June. So 14 days from before 30th of June, right, that member needs to inform the company that he wants an AGM to be held. Okay, so if a member requests for the AGM to be held, right, the director must then go back to the original deadline as though the AGM is held physically. So the director, right, must hold it within 6 months after the financial year end. Okay, so the deadline for exempted AGMs is 5 months to show the financial statements to the member, provide the financial statements to the members. But if let's say the AGM is to be validly held, right, then it must be 6 months. So if let's say what happens if let's say 14 days from the deadline, right, from the 6 month, then the shareholder comes and says he wants to hold the AGM, then the company says, hey, not enough time to organize one, then an extension of the deadline may be requested from the registrar. So usually then the company will request from the registrar for an extension. So we get this quite often. So some companies, they cannot adhere, or they cannot hold the AGM within the allocated time, then we will have to apply for an extension. Okay, alternatively, right, if a member or auditor requests a general meeting to lay the financial statements, which means that if the auditor or a shareholder says, I want to see the financial statements, I want to question the financial statements, then the private company, right, must hold one within 14 days of the request. So for this one, right, is a separate thing from the AGM, which means that one day the shareholder says, I want to take a look at these financial statements and question it, then the company needs to hold a general meeting 14 days of this request. So these are actually checklists, right? Checks and balances, right, to this AGM exemption. But if other than that, right, if nobody actually requests, right, then this 5-month deadline from the end of the financial year can be adhered to if your company is exempted from holding AGMs. Okay, so private dormant relevant companies, right, do not need to prepare financial statements, okay, and therefore they do not need to hold AGMs, but they are subject to the same safeguards, which means that if a private dormant company, right, because they are private and dormant, and they are relevant company, so so private dormant relevant is a non-listed and non-subsidiary company with total assets equal to or less than $500,000. Okay, so if let's say it fulfills this criteria, right, then it does not have to hold AGM, but they are subject to the same safeguards, which means that in the event that a shareholder wants to hold an AGM, then an AGM has to be held. Okay. So then, like we mentioned before, right? So if all members agree, all shareholders agree, right? A company can dispense with holding AGM by passing a resolution. So we can actually get all the shareholders to agree. So all the shareholders agree that they will pass a resolution to dispense away with holding the AGM. Then after that, with this shareholder resolution, right, we don't need to hold the AGM, but all shareholders must agree. So in place of an AGM, right, the company can use written resolutions to address issues that would have been discussed during the meeting, which means that if in the event that at the AGM, right, you might question some things, like maybe you may want to maybe appoint another director to the board. Then in place of this AGM, right, the company can use written resolutions, so they can circulate the resolutions around, resolution in writing, to pass such resolutions. So that means if you want to get a director on board, then you can do it in this manner as well. Okay, then so as stated previously, right, same thing. So long as one member, one shareholder requests for an AGM, just one will do. So even if the requirement to hold one has been dispensed with, the company must hold one in the stipulated time. So the stipulated time, right, is 6 months. Okay, so if you're a private company, right, your deadline to hold AGM, right, is 6 months from the end of the financial year. Okay, so that is the if you have dispensed, yours is 5 months to submit the financial statements. If let's say you need to hold the AGM, then it's 6 months. Go back to the normal timing, as though the AGM is not dispensed with. Okay, so if there's anything, right, you can contact us. These are our websites and that's our email address. That's all from me, and I'll see you in the next video.